Have you done what God's asked you to do today? I know you're going, what makes you think God's asked me to do something today? Well, Psalm 139, David tells us that every day of our life is recorded in his book. Well, if he's written something down every day, he's had to have something for you to do, right? Well, let's talk about it in your morning cup of inspiration. I was thinking about that as I was reading Acts, the 9th chapter. Ananias was in Damascus minding his own business, and God calls him. Let me give you the backdrop here. On the way to Damascus, Paul, who was then known as Saul, was struck down by a huge light and blind and had to be walked into the city, had been 3 days without food and water. Now God goes to Ananias, who's in the city, and he says, arise and go to the street called Straight, inquire at the house of Judah for one called Saul of Tarsus, for behold, he's praying. Now immediately, Ananias is a little bit concerned because he's heard about Paul. So God's told him to do something. What does he do? The same thing we tend to do, make excuses. Ananias says, Lord, I've heard from many about this man, how much harm he's done to your saints in Jerusalem. And here he has authority from the chief priests to bind all who call on your name. So he's afraid of Paul. He's making excuses because look what Paul told him to do. He told him to rise up, go find him. And then he goes on, and this is kind of funny, in a vision, he's telling him that Paul's seen a man named Ananias coming in, putting hands on him so that he could receive his sight. So what if Ananias didn't do what God had asked him to do? It'd be a little bit funny if someone comes into the house to see Saul and goes, are you Ananias? And he goes, no, I'm John. Well, I had a vision about Ananias. So apparently Ananias didn't want to do it, so God asked me to. But I'm John, and I think we can accomplish the same thing. We do not want that to happen. Ananias didn't let that happen. As we go on and read in the 9th chapter, Ananias went his way, entered the house, acknowledged Saul, and laid his hands on him, and the scales fell off. He received his sight, and Saul was filled with the Holy Spirit. So let me come back to it again. What has God asked you to do today? I pray that you listen to the voice, that you don't make excuses, and do what God's asked you to do. Change the world, just like Ananias played his part in changing the world through Paul. God bless. Thanks for joining me for that morning cup of inspiration, and we'll see you next time.